Greetings one and all to our how to play video for Fog and Friction. This two-player card game allows you to put your wits and tactical prowess against your opponent while fighting over battlefields in war-torn Europe during the Second World War. There are two basic types of card in the game: battlefield cards, which you will be fighting each other over for control of, and forces cards that you will use throughout the game to defeat your enemy. To begin a full game, you will need 5 battlefield cards and a separate deck of 60 forces cards. Each player will draw the top card of their battlefield deck to establish the first 2 battlefields for you to fight for control of. You may then add 2 cards from your hand, chosen from your deck. These cards must have a fight strength of 1 and have no special rules. You then choose who will be the attacker and who will be the defender. You can do this by mutual agreement or simply randomize it. The attacker will draw up to a total of 8 cards from the top of their deck for their starting hand, while the defender will draw up to 6 cards from the top of their deck to form their starting hand. We are then on to the first deployment phase. First, the attacker may deploy as many forces cards to either battlefield. Once they are finished with their first deployment, the defender may do the same. Remember though, if you do not deploy any cards to a battlefield in your first deployment, you may not deploy them to that battlefield in the second deployment phase. Once both players have finished their first deployment, we move on to the second deployment phase. This works in the same way as the first deployment phase. Once both players have finished deploying cards, we move on to the combat phase. Each card has a number of values on it that represent its strengths in battle. The medals show the damage that card deals to each type of target: armor, infantry and air. Each card's type is identified by its strength symbols in the top left hand corner of the card. The first step is to allocate anti-aircraft fire. You add up the air damage across all of your cards at that battlefield and apply them to the enemy aircraft. In this example, we do not have any anti-air units. The next step is for aircraft to attack ground targets. They may choose to attack either the frontline cards or the support cards. In this example, the Typhoon will attack the frontline cards, inflicting 1 damage against the Grenadiers. As the Grenadiers only have a fight strength of 1, the number of symbols present, it becomes depleted. The Typhoon will also inflict 2 damage to the Sturmtiger. The first point of damage will deplete it, and the second point will destroy it. It is important to note that when attacking multiple cards in a location, you must apply damage to the card with the highest value fight strength first, and to undepleted cards before depleted ones. Depleted cards have either gone to ground, dispersed, taken casualties, or taken damage, and are able to occupy battlefields but will take no further part in combat until they have been resupplied by logistics cards. The next step is for artillery cards in the support lines to attack. Again, add up all your damage from artillery cards and choose to either target the front line cards or the support cards. Here, the Pack 40 only has the front line to attack. It applies 3 damage to the front line, which is more than enough to deplete and destroy the Bren gun carrier in 1 strike. But it does no damage to infantry targets, so the riflemen survive unscathed. Finally, the frontline cards will attack each other, as they can only attack the enemy front line. The riflemen will destroy the Grenadiers, but as the Grenadiers are already depleted, they will do no damage in return. When the Grenadiers are destroyed, their support cards will be discarded too, as a support card cannot exist without a frontline card to support. After the combat phase, if there are no enemy troops occupying a battlefield, you win that battlefield. Keep it face up in front of you so you know how many you have won. The player who won the battlefield then draws a replacement battlefield and we start a new round. Both players draw 3 cards to add to their hand from the top of their deck. you draw an extra card for each battlefield you won in the preceding round. Fog and Friction. Order your copy now by following the link in the description below.